Welcome back to Inside Personal Growth. This is Greg Voisen, the host of Inside Personal Growth. And I'm on the line with Dr. Neecie Moore, who is joining us from Dallas, Texas. And for all my listeners who are now listening to this on the YouTube channel, you can go back and listen to her on the audio channels on all your favorite channels, iTunes, Spotify, and so on, because we're retaping this because Greg forgot to put the aspect ratio correct so that we could edit this video correctly. Good day to you, Dr. Neecie. How are you?
I am amazing, and good day and Happy New Year when we're recording this.
Yes, Happy New Year to all my listeners. This is actually the first one of the new year for me. Another one tomorrow, but the reality is you're the repeat of what I didn't do last year, but that's a good thing. So I'm going to let our listeners know just a tad bit about you, if you don't mind. For over 25 years, Dr. Neecie Moore has been inspiring, motivating, and transform audiences to align and connect with their destiny. Her vast experience as a successful business leader and an endless pursuit of advanced education as her being heralded and celebrated by industry leaders like Tony Robbins. Niece's passion combined with her purpose has helped her audience's clients achieve remarkable results. Her method of connecting, inspiring, and empower others to live extraordinary and passionate lives is born of her unique command of psychology, neuroscience, and spiritual formation. As a result, her clients have experienced rapid healing and growth that is often described as miraculous. Well, I would say based on our last interview, everything that I just read in that bio is true. And your energy is just probably the most commanding of all, and that's the best. And I think that's a God-given thing. So the reality is, we talked just a tad bit about this. Tell our listeners, if you would, is your defining moment? How did you get to doing this and wanting to be a life coach and then wanting to actually teach all these other life coaches? And for all of my listeners, if you want to get there, just go to drneecie.com, Dr. Neecie, Neeecie.com is where you can find more information about her. So tell us a little bit about that. Your defining moments, some of your defining moments.
I was going to say, I've had so many defining moments. And when I say so many, I've probably had 5 to 7, but I'll tell you about the one that I believe was most defining in that it put me on my current path. And it happened in the most unusual way, in the most unusual place, as I'm sure that hearing defining moments. They kind of sneak up on you when you least expect them. But I happened to be doing some research for NASA and the Air Force with a team of scientists. And to conduct this particular research, we were climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, the tallest freestanding mountain in the world. And my research was about what occurs in the brain and in our psychological processes in extreme environments. And so I was supposed to be the only one in the team that had oxygen so that my brain could stay straight with adequate oxygen, but my oxygen did not arrive. But I was still able to complete the research. And I knew that would be I loved the scientists I was climbing with, and we had been preparing for a year. They'd been training for 2 years. I got to the team late, but I knew it would be a wonderful experience. But what I did not plan was my defining moment. And this was my defining moment, Greg. And by the way, we did not go the Coca-Cola route, which is just hard labor, but the path's clear. We climbed the Western Breach, which is the most dangerous route up Mount Kilimanjaro. And a lot of people, when they hear Western Breach, ask me, did you make it? And I say, I was the first to pull myself up over the crater rim and stand on top of Mount Kilimanjaro. But that was not my defining moment. My defining moment came in 2 pieces. the first piece was when we were signing in, because you have to sign in at the gate, because if you don't come down in a number of days, they send search crews to look for you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so we were signing in, and hundreds of children came running, and they knew enough to beg, and they had a few English words like chocolate. And I didn't have any chocolate because I don't eat sugar, but I had some bags with trail mix. And of course, everything you have is in Ziploc bags. Every pair of socks, every snack, every shirt, everything that you're taking up is in a Ziploc bag because you're climbing through the rainforest before you get to the sub-zero temperatures. So I got down on my knees, took my backpack off, and I had some trail mix. So I'm trying to put the trail mix in their hands, and they're fascinated, but they're throwing the trail mix on the ground, and I can't communicate with them. But soon I realized they were obsessed with my Ziploc bags.
Oh.
And so I was showing them how they work, and they wanted it. And so again, no communication. I said to them, I'm going up there. I'll be back in 11 days. And I have a lot of Ziploc bags, and I'll give them to you. And so we climbed. I not only saved every Ziploc bag I had, I saved every Ziploc bag everybody on the team had.
Mm-hmm.
So on our descent, I thought, I wonder if they remember. And when we came through the gate, children came from everywhere. Moms came. Moms are sobbing because I'm handing out Ziploc bags, and these kids are taking them like they're $100 bills. And actually, I ended up giving them everything except the clothes I had on my back. And when we pulled away in the van, I was exhausted. I wanted a shower. My body was worn out, but I knew my life was changed forever. That was the first part of the defining moment. But on the bus, our tour guide, who was wonderful, and we
Do you mind me asking what was the purpose for the Ziploc bag, for them to store their food in, or what did they say what they were going to use them for?
what my tour guide told me was that for them it was like a toy. It's like an Xbox to them, because it's like magic. You zip
Yeah.
it and everything stays.
Mm-hmm.
So we got on the bus with our tour guide, and I was so emotional, probably because I was worn out, but mostly about these kids who act like they're receiving $1 million because they're getting Ziploc bags.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, most of those children have AIDS, and most of them won't make it, maybe
Oh.
a few more years. And NASA and the Air Force was very good to us. They said if we all summited, they would send us on a Serengeti safari. So we went on our safari, but all I could think about was those kids. So I came home and I said, something has to be done here. I don't know what I can do, but if Ziploc bags changes their lives, what can we do? Long story short, I began sharing it with people. We ended up opening a clinic at the base of that mountain to treat children with good nutrition who had AIDS. And
Oh.
that clinic still stands, and I still get cards and letters. I mean, my name's not on it. I just happen to be the one who had the vision. But that defining moment said to me, if Ziploc bags mean something and make them think life is worth living, what can I give to my clients, to the people I know and love and speak to, that will be a gift of life? And
Yeah.
that's what I've been doing ever since.
Well, it's a great story because it exemplifies the fact that the smallest things in life can make the biggest difference, you
Yeah.
know? And I think for most people, sometimes when we talk about these defining moments, it's this deep emotional connection to seeing someone, whether it's in pain or suffering or whatever it might be, and realizing just what God has given us, the graciousness that has been bestowed upon us. And we would like to do that for many others. And
Yeah.
I think you do that, because in life coaching, if you look at our psychology and our neuroscience, it's about reprogramming how we think. So if we're to get those people out of poverty, meaning those kids, let's say they survive the AIDS, they grow up, but they would like to make a better life for themselves, your coaches and what you train help others make better lives for themselves. Why is it that what you do and you've been doing so long um, is kind of different from the run of the mill kind of coaching that people might run across?
Well, I would say one of the key differences is understanding our psychology. We have an owner's manual installed on our hard drive by the time we're 8 or 9 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I can give you, Greg, as if you needed them, I can give you great strategies to change your life. But if your owner's manual has a deep belief that says you're not good enough, you're not talented enough, you're not smart enough, or you're too old, or you're too young, or you came from the wrong family, the strategies, you can put them out there, but what's on your owner's manual will reign.
Mm-hmm.
And so I say to my coaches I train, give people great strategies, but find out what's on their hard drive, because ultimately what's on their hard drive will direct their destiny. And all the strategies in the world, it might give them a motivational moment, but they'll go right back to what's
To
on
the
their.
default. Yeah.
Yes.
So what would you say is your way of finding out what the owner's manual has written on it? In other words, if all of us comes in with life with a clean slate, depending on what you believe, and then we continue to accumulate these sequence of events, be them good, be them bad, that are part of building that manual. And the manual starts to say, well, I created all these beliefs along the way, but many of those beliefs are not serving you
Mhm.
anymore, right? They're beliefs you're carrying. How do you help people reprogram that neuroscience of the mind to actually understand that they're carrying around beliefs that no longer serve them?
Well, of course, the first is awareness. And one of the ways I find to get people most aware is to say, tell me about your greatest disappointments in life. And then as they tell the story, I say, so what do you believe about X? Oh, my disappointment is that I never went to college. What do you believe about going to college? What do you believe about opportunity? And they start saying these things, and I'm making notes. And by the time I find 3 things that are not serving them, they can take it from there. But the real key is we make in the field of psychology, and I love my field, so I'm going to say something a little bit derogatory about us, but we're really a great field. Um, but one of the mistakes we make in the field of psychology is I think, as a psychologist, often that if I just help you see a belief that's not serving you, that you'll handle that. But the truth is, they're deeply installed and they do not come out easily. And so, research tells us, the field of neuroscience tells us that you have got to uproot that, and you've got to do it with intensity, volume, activity, energy. And again, I create all kinds of fun things, whether it's jumping up and down and saying, I am good enough. I don't believe that anymore. And I'll jump up and down and turn on loud music and scream with them. And we have a wonderful time. So that's the first part. You got to blow that up.
But don't you think that breaks the pattern? I mean, if you look at patterns that we've created in our lives, and you wonder sometimes, um, Einstein said, keep doing the same thing and expecting different results is the definition of insanity. Well, that means everybody's insane because we've all got patterns that yeah, exactly, that we would like to break. But so recognizing those patterns turning into beliefs, um, you have a way of breaking those. I know neuro-linguistic programming is one of them. Tony Robbins, who's gave you a great accolade, uses, right? But something to break the pattern. Is that one of the ways you help break those patterns?
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay.
And then when you break the pattern, you can't just think, okay, so I am good enough. Okay, I'm going to go on about my life. You've got to install that on your hard drive.
Right.
And there's a lot of ways to do that. As you well know, I do mine with daily proclamations of who I am and who I'm becoming. You can do that with writing about who you want to be. You can do it with visualization. For example, this time of year, I have a lot of people wanting to lose weight, and it's like, don't make that New Year's resolution, because if you do, research says that you will lose some and then you will gain all that back and friends will come with it. However, if you visualize and set visuals for you to look at, get a fire in your belly and a fire on your backside, you can install new beliefs about your health and your body, and everything will fall in line.
Well, now for our listeners, we put a download available at our website for the sample proclamation page. And you mentioned that proclamation a second ago. What is it that you do? Why don't you give us a kind of a statement proclamation you would make? Because you formatted it and you've made it very easy. It's like it's a sheet people can fill out, and they can, you call it a proclamation, call it an affirmation, kind of call it what you want. I like the term proclamation because it's stronger than affirmation. And I think words are very, very important, the words that we choose. So what's a sample proclamation, and how do you recommend using it every day to actually reprogram, or let's say rewrite the owner's manual, right?
Yes, yes. Well, one of the things that I do is I have mine in front of me. It's on my phone. It's on one of my screensavers. It's in the front cover of my daily book. I keep it in front of me all the time. And usually I use it for a year, but almost always I accomplish some things and I put new pieces in. But just as a sample, because I memorize it very quickly, but I'm just now memorizing this year's. But this is a power piece that I put in because of an influence I'm trying to have on coaches this year. So a very small piece says, I live in ways that model the very essence of love, health, vitality, renewal, and leadership that we all want. I settle for nothing less than the very best, and I inspire those around me to step into their extraordinary greatness.
That one is wonderful. Now, the vibration of the words, being able to kind of be an uptake. People talk about their chakras and how the vibration of these words means so much. How you actually say that is so important as well, because if you're going to reprogram that owner's manual, the owner's manual has to believe it, right?
Yes.
So let's talk about the neuroscience. You've done a lot of advanced work in neuroscience. You studied those scientists at the top of the mountain, Mount Kilimanjaro. But how the brain is wired, what can we do from a neuropsychological standpoint to prepare the brains for becoming more? Because what you're doing is you are really working on I'm enough and more. Now, we don't mean more stuff around you. We just want you to believe that you're more than what you think you are. So what neuropsychological elements can we talk about?
Well, there's two I'd like to talk about. One kind of quickly, and one spend a little more time on it. The mammalian part of our brain that's right here back at the base of our brain does not understand time or direction. And so part of why reading this out loud, not just reading it to yourself daily, is that this is the old programming back here. So I could say, I live in ways that model the very essence of love, health, vitality, renewal, and leadership. This kind of says, oh, boring. But when I say I live in ways that model the very essence of love, health, you speak to this in a convincing way, and it goes on the hard drive. But the second thing, Greg, that is, I think, one of the most powerful pieces of research in neuroscience is this: gratitude actually changes brain function. When we are in a state of gratitude, all of the neurochemicals that may create depression, anxiety, stress, angst, all of those calm when we practice gratitude. And it releases dopamine, which then increases our ability to learn. It increases our resiliency. It actually creates a pattern of looking for the amazing things that we want to bring into our lives. So practicing gratitude actually sets aside all of the distractions, the depression, the anxiety, the negative thoughts, the stress. It sets those aside, and it makes a pathway for those good, healthy things to come in, and it moves us from surviving to thriving.
It's the practice of the two. So let's call it the proclamation, stated in a positive format.
Yes.
For that reticular activating system to get reprogrammed. And you're right, so right about the gratitude, because gratitude, people, I don't know if you've ever seen Afterlife with Ricky Gervais,
Yeah.
but he's so depressed because his wife dies, and they're trying to do everything psychologically to help this guy move. But when he starts to give is when you see the shift in him in that afterlife. And I think it's a great analogy, because when you're in this world of depression, you're contracted. And when you're in the world of gratitude, you're in expansion.
Yes.
Right? And we don't mean expansion to get you distracted. We mean expansion in the sense that your mind is open to new things and new ways of being, which is the reprogramming. Gratitude is so important, but the neuropsychology around gratefulness, I'd like to talk about for a second. What is it? Because there's been a lot of books written. I've had many of authors on here writing about gratitude. There's tons of gratitude journals out that people can get off of Amazon or anywhere they want to go. What is it for you personally that being grateful every day has done to change your life, and incorporating that in through your life coaching business with the other life coaches to use it as a tool in the tool chest to get people to shift their perspective? So how do you think that all works?
Well, first of all, let me just say this: it works beautifully. But let me talk about how it works so beautifully.
Okay.
When we are in any kind of angst, whether it be depression, anxiety, anger, frustration, whatever it is, one of the things that occurs in the brain is we begin releasing tons of adrenalines, cortisols, things that are very, very damaging to our health. But a moment of gratitude turns the faucet off on all of those hormones that affect our health negatively, much less our neurochemistry and our thought processes. But one of the things that I say to people, because they're often surprised to hear this, I had a 20-year struggle with anxiety and depression. And it was profound. I was scared to death to get on something like this and talk to people. I would do it, but I would be sick afterwards. And I struggled deeply with depression. I tried antidepressants. I'm a very natural health type person, so they did not work well with my body. I tried nutritional supplements. Some of them helped. But I have to say that when I began my little journey with no neuropsychology understanding, but I began my little journey of gratitude, I just decided most days I can think of one thing to be grateful for. Now, out front, I looked fine, but inside, I was struggling. And so I began writing one a day, and I did that for months, and I felt a little better. And I thought, surely 3 things a day will help me. And I began writing 3 things a day. And then I thought, why am I limiting this to 3? I'm just going to write everything that I can think of that I'm thankful for. Like right now, I'm looking out over to the pond and I can see mama ducks with baby ducklings. I guarantee you that'll be on my gratitude thing. That's just so precious watching that.
Yeah, nature.
So I just began as many as I could. And all of a sudden, I had a visit from my favorite cousin, and he knew of my struggle, and he knew that I literally was tormented by it. And we had spent about an hour together. He was my publisher at the time, and he reached across the table and put his hand on mine, and he said, "I have one thing to ask you." And I said, "What?" And he said, "Where's the depression and anxiety?" And I was like, "I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
but it's gone." And I had no idea, none. Here I am, a practicing therapist, and I had no idea that I was doing everything in the world to help my clients with depression and anxiety, except the one thing that made the biggest difference.
Well, it's a really good realization to add that. And I will add, many of my listeners know already, but like you, I struggled with anxiety for a very long time. Um, I was having anxiety attacks. And so I didn't know what to do. And I think sometimes sharing this is the best we could do. That I ended up doing biofeedback through a clinic, Scripps Clinic in La Jolla.
Yeah.
And the biofeedback led to meditation, which led to deep prayer contemplation.
Yeah.
And I will say from that sequence of events that was occurring, because, look, you could have taken any anti-anxiety drug. And like you, I wasn't apt to go find some drug. It just wasn't me. I wanted to find a natural way. And so long and short of it was the the biofeedback led to meditation, meditation led to a deep spiritual practice. And the actual spiritual practice along with the meditation is what cured, and I've never had one since. I used to be afraid to ride in an elevator. I used to be afraid to go out to restaurants. I would have attacks in my office, and they are debilitating. So I'm here to say to the people out there that are listening today, there are techniques that you can do. One of them, Dr. Neecie just said, if you go out into nature and you commune more with nature, the ducks that she was talking about walking across, it's very cathartic and healing for that. Um, Anything that you can do to get out of the state that's contracting you,
Yes.
right? Right? Because that's what's happening. Your mind is contracting and it starts to think real negative thoughts like, I'm going to commit suicide, right?
Yes.
And we know what the alarming rate that were. Now, if you were to leave our listeners with 3 key things for this new year, you know, we're all coming through COVID, vaccines on the other side, we can see things on the horizon. Life will return to somewhat normal, we're hoping. But what would you recommend for them to want to change, do, adopt, adapt, and put into their lives so that it could be positive for them in 2021?
Well, I will leave them with the 3 things that I gleaned from my mentors the first year that I actually decided to design my year rather than drift into a year. I took all of my great goals and thoughts and all of that to them, and they're all unconnected. They don't know one another, but there were 3 things that they all told me. One was practice gratitude every day, but not just what I do, writing in a gratitude journal, but making eye contact and expressing gratitude, because it sets a cycle of giving in our neurochemistry. So, gratitude, eyeball to eyeball. Thank you, Greg, for having me here.
Thank you for being back again in this new year. It's a pleasure.
That's one. Number 2, they told me, is be careful and mindful of your focus, because we are trained from grade school when they write X's on our tests, big red X's, to focus on what you've done wrong rather than big green check marks. Look how many I got right. So our focus will naturally go to what's wrong and what the challenges are. And of course, you have to handle those things, but keep your focus on the outcome and where you're going, because 2021 will be a better year for you.
Oh, totally, totally. And I'll add to that because you're a big advocate of this. It's on your websites. When people look for you on the internet, they'll find this. And that is purpose. We haven't said much about it, but you and I know that most definitely defining one's purpose and living the values that are clearly defined within the purpose really allows you to reach those goals and aspirations and intentions that you have much easier, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because when everything we're reaching for aligns with our purpose, the flow just is a momentum thing that keeps you going.
Well, go ahead.
The third thing I would leave with your listeners, and when I say this word, don't go to a religious place, it has a place there, but keep your faith in action. Faith is just believing you can get there. In those moments when you have a setback and you're like, oh, this is going to be just like last year, get in action. And I tell people, if you go to those places of thinking, your body will demonstrate it, even if you're in a crowd, just this. And I say, get your faith in action, get your head up, look ahead, stay in action. Faith just means I believe I can and will get there. And when you get to a setback, get in action. Sometimes I just get up and jump up and down. It's like, I am not going to let this process of this particular challenge get me off course. So I'll just get up and jump up and down and say, I'm going there.
Well, I think there is something, you talked a little bit about the brain, and I'll leave the listeners with this, but the endorphins that are released by being in action, it's a good chemical. It's the chemical in the brain that stimulates your high, let's call it that way, but it's a natural high. It's a
Yes.
runner's high. Whether you cycle, you hike, you go into the nature, you take long walks, whatever it may be, all of that is not only good for your health, it's good for your physical health, but it's really good for your mental health. And I don't think you can say enough about that. So I want to thank you and appreciate you and give all my gratitude for you in not only in this moment, but for 2021, for being back on Inside Personal Growth and spending time with our listeners. And I want to let my listeners know again, to get that proclamation sheet, just go to our website, insidepersonalgrowth.com, look for Dr. Neecie Moore, and you can download it there. We've got a download. Also, go to her website, and it's drneecie.com. That's where you can reach her, neecie.com. And if you want to sign up for her coaching program, or you want to learn more about her, or listen, or I should say, read her blogs, you can do that. You can find her on Facebook as well. I was there this morning looking at all the positive affirmation statements she makes in a nice little thing. Like, you can read them, they're there. And there's hundreds of them. I don't know how many you posted, but they make great little posters because there's a picture of her usually and the quote. So I thank you for doing that. I see that that's a great way. But whatever you do, connect with Dr. Neecie. If you have an interest in becoming a coach, or if you have an interest in being coached by any of her coaches. So thank you, thank you, thank you. As much gratitude to you as I can. Thanks for being back on the show.
Thank you, Greg. It's an honor to be here with you.